There's a lot of bad people in the world of Elden Ring, but the Dung Eater really takes the cake, and then flushes that cake down the toilet because it's not part of his dietary goals. Seriously, what's this guy eating? He's in a desolate wasteland and he's thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. Let me just check really quick. Yuck. To watch these runs live, follow us on Twitch. We're also playing other games there, but the videos will be posted on Tulok time if they aren't Elden Ring. Join the Patreon to support the channel and vote in the polls. Dung Eater beat Roger. If you like thrusting swords instead of great swords, you gotta go vote. Finally, make sure you like and subscribe, otherwise your soul is full of poop.
If you do the cooking by the book, then you'll have...
Dung Eater starts at the end of Boggart, and I'm not talking about his dinner plans. No, his sword is locked behind the royal capital, meaning we have to do this in NG+. I was pretty sure that even though we turned him into a puppet last week, his armor would still be in the cell, but no. Looks like if we want to take a dump this run, we gotta take our clothes off. And hey, sometimes it gets a little too warm in the bathroom, gotta drop the shirt like it's training weights in anime. Already have the Sword of Milosh, it's spiky and lets us...
hear the roar!
But we also gotta crank the levels up. Apparently it pierces? Which attack has pierce? I don't know. It also does standard damage though. Chat said maybe the spikes on there is making it do pierce? And then what does the standard damage? Because every hit has the spikes. This sword is driving me bananas and we haven't even started the run yet. Plunder some somber 8s and 9 from the Dragon Barrow and a somber 10 from Mogwin Ruins. Now, we did start at Boggart's End, but what if we started at his raw base instead? I'm here for that talisman that boosts two-handed swords. What's it called again? The two-handed sword talisman?
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Instead of fighting the Hornson, I realize,
Oh! I can just run!
Little thing I forgot, this sword also gives you FP recharge when enemies die. That'll matter never. It will never matter. We don't fight mobs, but even if we did, this build doesn't really use FP. It's got a roar, like one time, then you just hit stuff. Next, we're gonna clean the big turtle, and that's not a euphemism for proper wiping technique. It's what we need for the Regal Omen Baron. Boy, whoever agreed to sponsor this video is a real one. Seriously. Regal Omen Baron shoots out some ghosts, it scales off your intelligence and faith, 2 stats the rest of the build doesn't really need, and it takes forever to start up. Basically, it's here to make spells look useful. Speaking of useful, check out today's sponsor. Wait. Nobody wanted to sponsor the pee-pee poo-poo video?
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Okay, then I'll sponsor it. I'll sponsor myself quick. Hey, also, legally speaking, this is just a joke. I am not sponsoring myself, and the video does not include a paid promotion, important to note. But yeah, I've been branching out and I'm making other content lately, putting it on other channels so it does not anger the fickle YouTube algorithm. For those unaware, once YouTube decides you're an X channel, if you make videos that aren't X, it will not show them to your followers, which stinks. I get really sad about that, because I wanted to make some variety for like a bunch of reasons. One, Elden Ring stonks are in decline. That's just actual factual. Interest in the game peaked at the release of the DLC, and it's slowly sliding down. As is the number of things I can, like, do in the game that are interesting. Combining that together, and Elden Ring cannot be the only basket in which I drop my sweet, sweet eggs. 2, burnout. I just can't do the same game over and over again, no variety, and keep enjoying it. So, here's what we're doing in other places. Tulok the Cardbarian, I'll be talking about Magic the Gathering, building decks for Commander that are a little less than mainstream, and trying to keep to a reasonable budget, probably failing at the last part. Tulok Time is the variety channel where I'll be playing whatever video game I want and not really caring about making algorithms happy. It's gonna be secret starting class Tulok and Mango style editing that you love of games you might already know and love, or games you're finding out about for the first time. And Tulok the Barbarian is the Dungeons and Dragons channel. I used to make character builds there, but got burnt out on that, so instead I'll be making 5e homebrew for you to play. It's all pretty heavily inspired by Souls-like games, more in terms of flavor than punishing difficulty. I don't like meat grinder campaigns, so if any of those interest you, please go check them out. I'll reiterate, you're still getting the same Elden Ring stuff here, I just don't want to burn out on it. Now, let's get back to dinner. Let's kick it off with the Grafted Scion. Yeah, prep time was really short with this one since we basically got everything we needed as Boggart. The routing will actually be a little different this time since we can get the armor as soon as possible. I can excuse coprophilia, but I draw the line at suggestive dress. Who's the Spirit Ash for this run? The Dung Eater, obviously. 1 Dung Eater is good, but 2 is better. It'll let us carve Margit right up. Obviously, the Dung Eater is good at chopping up omens. Have you seen his armor set? Right on to Godric, he has a few too many arms. Let's just even those out. The More debuff decreases his damage resistance by 15% for 40 seconds. It works on literally every boss. Yeah, Godric goes down pretty fast too. It took us 9 minutes from the startup to get to Lernia. Personally, I wish Deathblight would just apply the Milosh debuff on enemies. That way it could work on a few enemies. It's kind of like the same color scheme. Stacking it with Frostbite might be a little OP then, but you'd still have to have 2 weapons and hit those status effects. There isn't an infusible weapon with inherent Deathblight or Frostbite that I'm aware of. I don't know, it would just be something to make Deathblight useful and gives me something to talk about while we make our way to Imagine, eating Dookie in Fortnite. I guess we might as well fight Grail. We could get a few levels. Lack of armor is kind of an issue. We take a lot of damage from the Fire Breath. We're so good at breaking down enemies so fast that the Putrid Avatar died while I was explaining this, just like in the background. We've made it to Altus, hooray, and let's fight the Draconic Tree Sentinel.
Long time no see.
Seriously, we used to fight this guy all the time, but then I figured out for all memes it's technically faster to do Valiant Gargoyles and Fia's champs. Gotta say, I missed you, bud, like a lot. Draconic Tree Sentinel can have some frustrating hitboxes, sure, but every hitbox on the Valiant Gargoyles is frustrating, and there's 2 of them. And when you hit the Tree Sentinel boss, it takes damage every time. And there's no NPC fight after. And the only reason we do that fight is to fight Fortisax. And I hate that boss. So yeah, my heart really misses the Tree Sentinel, even if my sword doesn't. God dang. Great sword. It really is right there in the name. Oops, forgot to get a second shard bear, so let's go take down Renala and her little dog too. It's a big dog, but it's still a dog and they don't like getting hit with swords. Pro dog raising tip, don't hit them with swords, it's illegal. And more importantly, it's wrong. Now hitting divorcees, also illegal. Hitting most living things with swords is illegal. Probably not trees, if you own the tree at least. Hey, we actually get to see our magic recovery work while swatting the kids. Remember when I said it was never going to be useful? It's useful one time. I didn't stop at a grace, so we didn't have enough FP to summon the Dung Eater for phase 2, so we just hit him like Anakin.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Then we can bring in a second Dung Eater and really get to carving through the second phase. I always hate when she summons the giant just because she teleports away and slows down the fight. Definitely not a problem, just a little speed bump on the F1 track. That would be a major problem, actually. Royal Capital so early? I thought we generally tried to baby wipe the rest of the Membies first. Normally we would, but today we need to do the Dung Eater quest. Not for us, or the Dung Eater we summon, but for the Dung Eater in the Round Table Hold and the Dung Eater in the sewers.
How many
Dung Eaters?
we got on this ship anyhow? Yo! I knew it, I'm surrounded by
Dung Eaters. Let's get him out of jail, get the crab to kill him. Man, I love crabs.
Go back to the club.
And hit him once. Now when we're naked, Dung Eater would die in a few hits. But with this armor, Dung Eater eats hits. Great name for the next section, actually.
Somebody point me to the best ass eater.
If anyone hits hard in the lands between, it's Radahn, the biggest boy, and the best place to test the armor out. But also, we'll bring in some friends. Eating is so much more fun when you do it as a community. And with the extra damage for our debuff, paired with the bleed on our sword and Okina's, we eat.
I see you eat every day.
Since our stats are kind of cracked, we're just gonna grab the Radahn Great Rune, then enter Radahn's hole. I mean, yeah, that's the Dung Eater's main job. Believe it or not, there's a 5th Dung Eater in this run, the Mimic tier, but he doesn't have the sword, and that's the best part of the build. Wait, I just realized something. Did I finally find it? Did I find the Poop Stomper?
I know it's real.
Time for the optional Ronnie quest that is mandatory. Loretta is a ghost. Does that mean there's no dung to consume, or is it a ghost dung? Like when you poop, but then you look in the toilet and there's nothing? Sorry about all the poop jokes this episode, but it is the Dung Eater. It'd be like trying to talk about Johnny Ass Fingers without bringing up his ass fingers. Sure, his left hand is normal, but on the other hand. Lake Rod is basically just a normal lake for the Dung Eater in his twisted mind. Think about that in despair. Naturally, we're great at pounding ass, tell.
It's like, I was made for this.
I tried using the Omen Baron when he was running away, just to maybe keep stance pressure up, but no, it's still terrible even here. The Dung Eater puppet must be somewhat built to use it, since his roar seems kinda good against the Regal Ancestor Spirit. Still, I do more damage just by hitting it with the sword. Keep in mind, this thing has like negative 40% holy resistance, I think. So if it was gonna work anywhere, it should work here, and it kinda does. A little? Gargoyles would be a place to note where our attacks do standard and where they do pierce. They are a lot weaker to standard, but I don't see any huge difference in the attacks. They all seem kind of fine. It's just the damage debuff, and all the hits I'm seeing do something, some kind of damage. Finally, Fia's champs. There I tried a guard counter, the only one I hadn't seen yet. Maybe that'll make us thrust the sword? No, I really don't know what's Pierce and what's standard. All three get hit with the roar, and we poise boys through all of them with the roar charge. Roar charges are great for NPCs and even do fine in ganks, as long as you've got enough armor to not die. Boggart wasn't able to pull it off with his train roar because he'd die if he got hit a few times. We don't. We eat hits comfortably. Remember, it's the title of the section. God-free, yeah, he put it right there in the name, huh? Hit him a bunch, he can't bleed, but it doesn't matter. Extra damage hits everything extra hard. Morgott can bleed, so he's not harder, he's easier. But this is going so smoothly. It's like our diet is beans and yogurt or something. Not at the same time. Beans for the meal, yogurt for the dessert. And a lactate. Your boy can't digest dairy. For Harris lands, freedom, people. You guys sure your guy's pro-freedom? Dude wants to send the military after people who disagree with him or protest him. He wants to ban violent video games like, oh, I don't know, Elden Ring? Project 2025 plan says no more word that rhymes with corn and restrictions on birth control. So if you like boning down playing video games or saying, I don't like these laws that stop me from boning down or gaming, I don't know. He just might not be the freedom guy. Also, he's in trouble with the law not because of cancel culture, but because he did fraud, like frauds. Freedom of speech doesn't mean you can say my apartment's 4 million square feet and worth $300 million. Give me a loan with that as collateral. That's fraud. That's not political dissent. That's just like doing a crime. Law and order, people. That's not lawful. Okay, fire giant. The bigger the boy, the bigger the brown eye. Percentile damage does more when the boss has more health, and even though it doesn't look like he's getting roared, he is. The fart cloud is just all the way up by his face so you can see it. And it is a fart cloud, by the way. He just roars so people don't hear him fart. Kind of like coughing to cover it up. Godskin duo, the big one looks like a toilet paper roll, or as I call it, a napkin. I mean, I've used toilet paper as a napkin before too. Generally, I have paper towels, but sometimes you don't. Definitely used it as a tissue before. I mean, who the hell has money to buy tissues? 3 big boys with big weapons working together makes this super clean and easy, no toilet paper required. Malekith shouldn't be too bad. We get through phase 1 pretty fast with a stance break, and phase 2 is easier. We get another stance break. Great swords are great at that. Not the best, but pretty darn great. Already on to Gideon. Good lord, we're blasting through this shit. Hit him with the roar, walk forward, and win. We're already back to Godfrey. It's only been like 30 minutes in game time and 1 minute in the video. It's just easier though. This one can bleed, so it's another part of our kit that will work here. The stance pressure is high. He grabs the puppet in phase 2, but as soon as he starts winding up the stomp, it's over. We won. Radahn breaks down super fast, so much so that we get 2 stance breaks and kill him before he does the hammer slammer. On to Elden Beast right away. It's an easy boss as long as you have 40 vigor, and they made it easier because they added the horse. Stance break at the end, we beat him before he did the second set of rings. Not only have we not died to a boss yet, we are zooming through the game. Don't worry though, if we get done early, we'll just sit here for a few minutes watching YouTube shorts or something. You don't have to go back to work right away. I know this is your poop break, and I'm sorry it won't be a longer one.
Sitting on the toilet. Sitting on the toilet.
Starting off with Niall, his ghosts get trashed super fast. He does the buff right as they die, and that's kind of sad. Actually, everything about this sword continues to be great. Raw damage, great. Debuff Ash of War, great. Stance pressure, great. Bleed buildup, great. Oh hey, Boggart's alive. And yeah, I do think he's a misogynist for calling Raya a bitch. He doesn't have a ton of dialogue. Choosing to make one of his lines a pejorative directed at a woman is a pretty decent way to signal the man's a misogynist. And also no, Raya is not recruiting you to kill him. She does not know what Volcano Manor does. She does not know who her dad is. She does not know there is a town in her house. She's not a mastermind. She's kind of an idiot, but she's not deserving of a sexist pejorative, and one you would only use for her if that's something you just call any woman you don't like, which I would classify as misogynistic. Dung Eater is worse, literally a serial murderer, but it is insane to me that people really try to say he's not sexist. He just likes swearing. That ain't even media literacy. That's just literacy full stop. Can you read the words and understand what they mean? We forgot to do Volcano Manor, but hey, now it's done. Dung Eater is pretty great at chewing through the big snake. He usually only eats brown snakes.
Poop. Your poop mouth. Poop out of your mouth.
Speaking of, Poopsigisax, Placidia ass, Placidisax, Placidudu sax, Poop shit doo doo ass.
Ultra combo.
We get invaded by a Nastia, which is wild. I didn't think it could get nastier than a Dung Eater. And then we eat some Penguin Noble. NPCs are easy. With Roaring Charged Attack, this is not news. Moog is another Omen. We're pretty great at beating those, especially with his anemia. Literally doesn't make it to phase 2. He just dies. It's simply too easy. Are you noticing how often we're skipping entire phases of bosses? It might seem like I'm yada yada yadaing this run, but there ain't much yada to yada. Or should I say, caca to yada. Maybe Dung Eater wouldn't be so bad if he just got some hugs, but after those hugs, we have to fight 40 shats. So honestly, probably would have made him worse. Then the liturgical town. I mean, come on. Things are rough out here. I appreciate people telling me I can skip the bosses I don't like, but the bosses aren't necessarily the frustrating part. I mean, sometimes they are Fortisax, Blassie, Rykard, Putrescent Knight, but more often than not, I'm just annoyed that I have to run. I like Moog. I like Melania. I don't like opening up the consecrated snowfield. I don't like doing a million chores just to get to a boss. Loretta is great. Not enough health, but she actually gets closer to killing us than some of these dorks do. Melania should be a challenge at least, unless we just shove her into a wall and give her a swirly. Phase 1 straight up bullying. She carves her puppet up a little bit in phase 2, but if we just play patient, we can get this done so easily. All Membies in the base game have been conquered and we didn't die once. I guess that's just the power of Poopy. The conquering of Kaka. The domination of... Time for a millennial moment, but Green Day has to be one of the greatest American rock bands. They had enough bangers for a greatest hits album, international super hits, and released American Idiot after that. Not many bands have arguably a top 10 album of the decade in 2 different decades. Divine Beast Dancing Lion's the first boss of the DLC, but it's less of a dance and more just shaking his hips side to side to make something fall out. I'm telling you, Fiber's your friend. Our friend is a big sword that makes every boss take more damage. Imagine how salty they must be fighting us. Dude, this guy has stance pressure, bleed, and a way to make me take 15% more damage. This is bull. Also, just realized I was only paying half attention to this run. Someone commissioned a D&D video about a My Hero Academia character, so I had to binge it to remember what everyone's abilities were. I was literally just watching anime and casually strolling through the game without even thinking about it a lot. Rolana dodges a crit and almost takes our first stock, but we heal it up and move on. I cannot emphasize enough how little of this run is actually boss fighting in the grand scheme of things. After a bunch of running, we make it to Commander Gaius. Human apparently tastes like pork, which explains why we went through this so fast. That, or some of the advantages that we've had in every other fight, are also present here. Is the video gonna be 15 minutes? Surely we'll find a wall soon.
I doubt it, but you never know.
Okay, so I guess maybe I'll hype up some difficult runs coming up. I made chat fight all the Remembrance bosses in New Game +7. That was wicked hard for them. Should be a little more interesting to talk about. Oh, hey, Putrescent Knight. He's a tough customer, right?
Not really.
Yeah, same thing, but he can't bleed, doesn't really matter. Say hi to Ymir through his little hat window and run more errands. You know what this is? It's a theme park without fast pass. I'm sitting in a line for 45 minutes to get on a ride that lasts for 2. Mesmer time, 3 of us have bleed. He's anemic. I bet this is gonna be a real battle. He's dead. Okay, another one I'm working on. I'm gonna try and take breaks from Elden Ring. Not like Tulok time, though that's also a thing, go subscribe, but rather I'm gonna be playing 1 minute of Elden Ring at a time, then put the controller down and do something else for a minute. Wherever I am, Elden Ring doesn't let me pause, so if I'm somewhere dangerous, I'm gonna die, and that also means that I have to beat every boss in 1 minute or less. I'll also be doing secret hardest difficulty in the game, basically just summoning 2 people at NG +7 and having them do nothing. That should be pretty rough. Meteor doesn't get a phase 2, she just dies. Big Flower doesn't bleed. Also doesn't matter. Hit it with the sword that's really good. Jump up. Oh, you know what? I haven't praised the armor enough. The armor's really good, and it's a big piece of why this is also easy. We don't have to heal as often. We don't lose, ever. Losing's pretty slow, actually, so let's just not do it. I would definitely be interested in doing longer runs, but longer runs are like longer and sometimes a lot longer. Doing stupid hard challenges is different since the DLC came out, since there's 70% more game, and that 70%'s way harder. Not that you'd notice from us fighting Romina because, oh my god, she died so fast. No surprise, Dung Eater does well against the human centipede. Anyway, the 1300 bosses video was great and it was a huge hit, but there's a reason we didn't follow up on it. That shit took 6 months. We can't really take 6 months to make a video, and I have to do some fast ones. Just stinks that anytime I do something that isn't terrible, namely a run that has a weapon with some decent reach and an armor set that isn't made out of tissue paper, lack a gameplay challenge creates a serious writing challenge. What do I say about this? Jory gets erased from existence and then we keep running? I was honestly tempted to just say yada yada yada, we beat Radahn Deathless, but honestly there's only like 20 minutes left in the VOD, so I guess I'll narrate it as best I can. Phase 1 Midra is super easy, but Phase 2 isn't much harder. Our level is so badonkadonk redonkulous that we have some mind investment to avoid frenzy. It's literally the only reason I grabbed it. What, do I need to summon the puppet twice? Hey, you know what I just realized? Our last Deathless run was Nile, where I figured out the truest easy mode is just buffing yourself. And materially, there isn't a big difference between buffing yourself or debuffing the enemy. This is just Nile with worse reach, but better stance pressure and a weapon that inflicts bleed. So overall better. Any Ilum stairs are like the Joker stairs because they're bad. Oh my god, I think Jonkler 2 is probably on video on demand by the time this video came out, and the stream happened before the movie hit theaters.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
At least Joker remembered to be funny this time, even if we're all just laughing at him. I actually remember to bring Ansbach for Letta. That's good. It means that we'll have him for Radahn, who I know we beat in like 3 minutes because there's only 8 minutes left in the VOD and we have to climb the jagged peak still. Also, because I did this run, post-nerf his hitboxes are pretty fair, but come on. He wasn't that bad, except on New Game 8. There he was pretty hard. Phase 2, he grabs Ansbach, but I don't care. Putting the roar on him actually makes him take a decent amount of damage. Big stance break right before he does the jump, and then he does the nuke, and we run to the other side. At this point, I'm just trying to keep the R1s up to make sure the bleed doesn't go down. I get grabbed, it's no big deal. Ansbach hits him in the ass to keep that bleed pressure up, but we just kill him with damage. Yeah, now we just gotta go up the mountain, kill a few ancient dragon mans on the way. 1, dead. 2, dead. Then Jagged Peak, Drake, and finally, the GOAT, Bale. I love me some Bale, and it's still a fun fight. To be honest, the whole run was fun. I enjoyed playing it. Running through the game with the poop stomper is incredibly fun. Top of S tier, no doubt. Dung Eater may wish he was on the bottom, but too bad. The sword rips, the armor is solid, and it's just a little too good for me to talk about it for very long. We stopped doing metrics, but end to end, stream time only, this took 6.5 hours, which is less in-game time, the metric that we normally used. That would be considered a pretty fast run before the DLC. 4 hours and 15 minutes in the base game, and then 2 hours and 15 minutes in the DLC. Keep in mind, we only fight 15 bosses in the DLC. The rest of that time is just riding through the lands between the bosses. Oh wait, lands between.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Next week, we're gonna have a little bit more of a challenge for you. Literally, the challenge is for you. It's chat versus Elden Ring 2. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, subscribe for more. We're finding new ways to play Elden Ring soon. Join the Patreon to support the channel. It's the best place to do it. I'll be honest, polls are gonna be a little more sparse. This run made me realize secret starting classes and NG Plus runs might be a little too simple for my current skill level. Finally, please check out Tulok Time, where I have a playthrough of another Crab's Treasure. And soon, we'll have some Kingdom Hearts up there too. Tulok the Barbarians, where I talk about Magic the Gathering and playing Commander. You might want to check that out as well. And Tulok the Barbarian is where I'm making some more homebrew in D&D. Check it out.